Dice, fantasy worlds, and epic battles. Sound familiar? Then maybe you have heard of Dungeons & Dragons, the role-playing game or RPG that swept the world by storm. If you've ever wanted to be a powerful spell-slinging sorcerer, a dangerous rogue, or a noble knight, then this just might be what you're looking for. Today, we are going to look into what this game is, have a chat with some long-time players, as well as give you some options on ways that you can get involved. D&D is different to many people. To some, it's an excuse to get together. Others, a way to self-insert themselves into another world. And to some, a sandbox to play out hypotheticals in. In essence, however, it is a role-playing game where people put on a persona and pretend to be somebody else. Now let's cut to the players and see what they have to say.
I'd say I'm pretty experienced at D&D. I've been playing for like 3 to 4 years, almost weekly.
I'd say I'm real experienced. I've been playing since I was about 8 years old, so 11 years bordering on. It's been a long road, and I've played through about 3 editions of the game.
I think I like D&D over like other board games because it feels a lot more open, that you can sort of do more stuff and like really think about things. Like you don't need to have a board, you don't need to have the books, you can just kind of do whatever and people are pretty cool with it.
D&D is a dice game. It all comes down to what you roll on fancy little math rocks that everyone has. And there are 7 of them, the main one being the D20. On the D20, the 2 most important rolls you can get is a nat 20 and a nat 1, which means critical success and critical failure.
Yeah, my best nat 20 moment was, actually it was in the first game we ever played, and I decided I went in no weapons, just straight up I kicked a goblin in the nuts, nat 20, maximum damage I could do with no weapons. And I think it had already been pretty damaged, so it just got nut shot and then died instantly. So that was pretty epic.
My best nat 20 story, it was in the first ever campaign I ever got to play in. And we ran into our first ever boss. It was just like a random water spirit we found in a lake. And I managed to, with a nat 20, convince it with a persuasion check to let us go for a muffin.
What my advice is for new players is get stuck into it. You see all kinds of things advertised. You don't need much. You just need dice and friends. And everyone's got at least one of those, and dice can always be found online. Just get stuck into it. You'll love it.
Yeah, what really affects the enjoyment of a D&D game is how much people are engaged. Because if they're not engaged and they're just kind of chatting amongst themselves, it just kind of doesn't have the same vibe as when like everyone's really into it and getting really like kind of feeding off each other's energy.
My advice for those interested in D&D is that if you want to start playing, try and find at least one experienced player or DM to play with, because they'll understand the rules and they'll know how they all function. So it won't just be like a trial by fire when you have like a group of people who don't know what they're doing, all trying to play a D&D for the first time because someone understands what should be happening.
D&D is a social activity, which can make it difficult to get involved in as a beginner. In Wellington, there are game stores such as Cerberus Games, which stock D&D merchandise and have tables to rent for D&D. The Caffeinated Dragon is a particularly good store and cafe that hosts some D&D specific events, along with Friendly Friday, where you can utilize their large games library and find other interested players. These events include D&D, as well as tips for beginner DMs to help newer people take on the role. Roll20 and D&D Online are both online options if you would like to play from a distance. And for newer players, the best D&D character sheet creators are made either on paper or through D&D Beyond. There are other options, of course, but for new players, these are the most convenient ways to get into D&D. So are you ready to adventure far and wide, take down threats of unfathomable scale, and repeatedly and comedically fail opening the gates to the 9 hells, destroying the world as we know it, and it is all your fault? Then give D&D a go. If that's not what you like, then it's okay. It has very little commitments, so go forth, make some memories with some friends, and keep rolling. Literally.